Welcome back to Redneck's Dirty Hands. I'm Pete, and today, unfortunately, we're going to be working on another Dodge. Now, I want to get back onto the fun projects. You know, I got the golf cart pulled down off the shelf. I want to get turning and burning on that. And I want to build the smart car / CF Moto 4-wheel drive project. But unfortunately, you know, my good friends at Iron Equipment, they're a little bit on the busy side. They got their own mechanics and all that, but they're busy. So, you know what? They got an axle seal leaking on this thing. And anybody that's ever done one of these, or if you've never done one of these, you might want to watch this. They're a bit of a bugger to do. The inner seals on these front axles, you got to pull the whole front differential apart. You got to pull the axles out, the carrier, everything, because they're all done from the inside. So, figure I'll help them, give them a hand do that, and then we can get on to the fun projects. Still got to pay the bills, you know, we're getting there. We're selling some merch. Shout out to everybody. Thanks for supporting the channel on going to our website, www.rednecks-dirtyhands.com, buying the merch, you know, the shirts, the hats, the stickers, all that jazz, supporting it. You know, maybe one day I won't have to work on these big old sausage of a truck. You know, I kind of like spending the time working on these projects like the golf cart, you know, R1, 1000cc street bike motor and a Yamaha golf cart. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But we are going to get going on it. Got to do some welding up on this thing and then hopefully be laying some strips down the road. Now, don't get me wrong. I know working on the Dodges and, you know, everybody else's cars and trucks, that's what pays the bills, you know, and, you know, we can eat and buy beer and all that stuff. But this is why we live. Building stuff like this. 1000cc Yamaha golf cart powered by a Fuel Tech 200 horsepower with the chem block drifting stick. This thing's going to be nuttier than squirrel turds. Now, JP's got to come down. He's got to rewire that. We got a spaghetti western going on here with all the wires. And Remington said he'd come down, help me. We'll get her welded up so we can take her down the road and leave some trails. But I think even though the wiring's a bit of a mess, it should hopefully still flame up. Let's cross fingers. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Wild Man Mark said that they got golf cart races at St. Thomas or Grand Bend. Sign me up. I like first place trophies. Like, just the sound of it alone gets you stiffer than a 2-day-old slice of pizza. But anywho, let's get back to the task at hand and get this big old Dodge in the shop and start stripping her down. Oh, this old girl, just like mine, got the old Manuel windows. Nice one. And look at that. She's a stick shift too. Beauty. Love the air vent. Little Turbski. Even cleared out all the cement pad over here, so we got lots of room for activities now. Big girl's definitely going to be testing the lifting capacity of the old 2-post here, but I got faith in the old Ben Pack. She can do her. Yeah, I knew the old Ben Pack had her in her. No problem lifting that. Now I know how Hulk Hogan probably felt body slamming Andre the Giant. Or the equivalent of Patrick Swayze doing the Dirty Dancing lift to Miss Piggy. But I mean, now that we got her up, we can have a peekaboo up in here, left front. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see this is all wet, so the axle, the gear oil, is coming out of this tube here. So the seals, let me shine the light. The seals for these differentials are inner seals. So they're inside the tube here and here. So unfortunately, to do this, we got to pop both front wheels out of here. Got to take both wheel bearings out of here. Pop both axles out. So I can gonna have to take the cover off, take the gear carrier, the ring and all that stuff out. So we can get at those seals, got to drive it in, and then there's a tool, and yeah, I don't have one. I got one coming from my buddy Jeff Bezos. There's a tool that you can use to press them in from side to side. So this is not going to be a fun job. It's going to be a tough job, a long job, a hard job, but you know what, it's got to be done, and I got to wait for the they're supplying the seal, so I gotta wait for it to come in, and that tool hasn't shown up yet for pressing it out, pressing the new seal in. So we've got to strip this thing all apart. You know, I wish it was more like the rear axles on these, because you can do those side to side. You just got to pull the axle, boom, pull that whole hub assembly off, change the seal on the back side, pop her all back together. Not so bad. This one here, the front end, we got to strip all the brakes off, the axles off, wheel bearings off. This is why I drink. Now, believe me, I would much rather be working on the golf cart project or the CF Moto project or any of the sled projects, because working on these big heavy trucks is just a pain in the butt and the arm, literally. Like, I got this brace on here, freaking tennis elbow. I don't know why they call it tennis elbow. I haven't played a lick of tennis in my life. You know, more like Molson elbow. I've tipped a few Molsons back in my day, but yeah, lifting these big heavy wheels and the impact guns and swinging the old sledgehammers and stuff definitely takes a toll on you. You know, when you're 20 years old, you can lift the transfer case off the transmission, no problem by yourself. Yeah, over 40, you wake up and your freaking hair hurts. But pitter patter, let's get at her. So I think I'll only film doing one side, but you guys got to keep in mind we got to do both sides. So first things first, pop off the wheel. These ones are 15/16. The old Milwaukee. Oh yeah. Alrighty, and then we got to pop the brakes off and the axle nut. And because we're going to pull the brakes and all the bolts for the wheel bearings and all that, I always like to undo the tie rod end here. That way we can swivel the knuckle side to side. Get at all the bolts and everything nice and easy. And then, of course, we're in Ontario, so this cotter pin is freaking seized in there. We'll have to replace that sucker. I grew up watching Power Block, Power Nation, all those shows, Spike TV or whatever. Everything they work on, rust-free. Most of the times I don't even need torches to get crap undone, but not so much here in Ontario. So we got a 21 mil socket for that guy. And then put the safety squints on. Take the old Martello. Give her a couple of good wraps right there. Oh. And that right there is why my elbow freaking hurts. So now we can swivel that back and forth the other way. So now we can pop her this way and get out all the bolts for the brakes. So we got two 13 mils going through for the slide pins. And then once you get them out, these calipers are hooked into these brackets. This one's hooked at the top and then clips in here. So then we just got to pull it back, flip her up, just like so. Check these side pins, they're moving. That's a good sign. Brakes look like they're worn fairly even. Everything's kind of loosey-goosey up in here. We'll pull these guys out, otherwise they're gonna fall and hit the floor, guaranteed. Come on. And pads and all that are out of the way, and then we got these two bolts holding our caliper bracket on. Now these are 18 mil, or at least this one is. This one looks like Steel Beaver's been chewing on that because it's a little bit rounded. This one might be a treat to get out, but I'll put the old Johnson bar on her, see if we can crack them loose. So now that I've got the tie rod unhooked there, this is going to be flopping around. So if I go to try and pry on that, it's just going to want to swivel in there. I won't get a good reach on it. So, but you get more access with the thing, the knuckle turn this way. So I just take a ratchet strap, hook her onto there, hook it onto the sway bar, give her a couple of clickety clacks. That way, when I go to crank on her, she doesn't pop in on me that way. And we can give her the beans here. Jeez, move the whole truck. There's one. Let's see if we can get this chewed up one. Please undo. Oh, yeah, buddy. That right there is what you call a nice one. While we're here, we've already got the ratchet strap on here. We've cracked these 2 bolts loose. We might as well get in and crack these 2. There's 4 bolts holding the wheel bearing assembly on, but there's 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. So we've still got it pulled over this way. Might as well get on there. Where are you? Hopefully these guys come undone too. Oh my God. I had to put all my weight into this sucker. Oh, yeah. Oh, they are tight. Oh, okay, good. Those 2 came undone. Then we can use our impact gun to zip these up the rest of the way. I don't like going at these initially with the impact gun because if they are, you know, super freaking tight or a little bit rusted, then you end up rounding the head of that off. You are screwed. So I like to crack them by hand and then spin them out. Same thing goes for these wheel bearing bolts. They're a special bolt. You know, you can't just go to your local hardware store and find one of these if you round the heads off. So crack them by hand first and then spin them out with the gun. Beauty. Flip her around this way. We'll undo the other 2. And I mean, we can pull the rotor off now too. I mean, oh, well, good if it wasn't freaking stuck on there. Oh, need one of these soft blow hammers. Okay, you can see a little bit more going on in here. I mean, maybe before I undo these other 2, I'll get this cotter pin out of here and we'll undo that. No, at least this cotter pin's not seized in here. And then I use my brother from another mother, Joe, gave me this kit of 12-point 3/4 drive sockets. I don't know how long ago. They were a cheap kit from Princess Auto, or which would be the same as like Harbor Freight or whatever. And I use it for everything from pounding bushings in and out of stuff, or, you know, a lot of Toyotas have the 12-point axle nuts and all that. But these things have gotten me out of many of a pickle. And you know what they say, pickles are great until you're in one. And just like so. Tickety-boo. And we just give the axle a couple of love taps with the old Deb blow just to make sure it ain't seized in there. She moved a little bit, so that's a good sign. And then we'll go back at those wheel bearing bolts. Hopefully these ones aren't too freaking tight. Oh, holy. I'm gonna lift the truck right off the freaking hoist. Geez, you know what, I think I am. Oh, I got that one. Whew. This one's freaking tight. I had to lower her down so I get some better leverage on her here. Oh, yeah. There we go. Now that we got those cracked loose by hand, go at them with the impact gun. Pull them right on out of there. And then because we're going to be pulling this bearing on out of here, we got to separate the speed sensor harness. It's clipped in with the brake flex line here. So we pull it out of all these little holders. It's just clipped into the inner wheel well there. Unplug it. Untangle the line from there. And then, in a perfect world, this would literally just pull straight out of there. But guess what kind of world we're in? Not a perfect one. So, we're gonna have to try and pop it out. I've got a way of doing it. There's a few different ways you can go about getting this out if it's seized in there. I mean, one, if the wheel bearing's junk and you don't really care about it, just grab the biggest hammer you got and go to town swinging. You know, pound it right off of there. But if you want to reuse it like we do, there's a few different ways. You can take your original bolt, thread it back in. I like to go with this top, the back one there, because it gives you a good spot. You just put her in a few threads, and then you just take a shallow 18 mil socket, a couple of 6-inch extensions, get that guy right on the head of the bolt there, and then that's going to line up right with this inner bracket. And then you put your steering back on, fire up the truck, and turn the steering wheel all the way to the left, and that's going to push this guy out. Sometimes if you're by yourself, it's a pain in the butt. You know, you can't hold it down here and then turn everything up there. So what I do is I have one of these automotive, it's like a body jack thing. So that fits right in there. I've got the bolt in there. And then all you got to do is pull it up. Push on the bolt there. And then as you can see, it's just separating that fella. Beauty. She just popped out. And then if it's still stuck, you can move the bolt to another location, spin it over this way, and try and line it up on the bracket on the other side and start pressing away. But I mean, we got her pretty much out, so I think we'll be good. I'll give her a couple of love taps with the soft blow hammer there, and carry on your wayward soul. I think she'll do her. Oh yeah, buddy. Tick, boo. And that is how you remove the wheel bearing without totally destroying it. And then you just straighten out your knuckle there. Make sure that's sitting right dead center. Grab your pry bar of choice or a good flat screwdriver. Then all you gotta do is get in between the axle and the knuckle. Pop her out like that. She comes out right like so. And there is your axle removed. And she's leaking way down in there. So that right there is about as far as we need to go on this side here. We've got the axle out. We got to do all the exact same stuff on the other side. I'm not going to bother filming that because it's identical to what we just did, just over there. But when you got your axle out, now is a perfect time. You can see that. It's like you just woke up in the morning. He's hanging up here. It's this U-joint is tight. It's not right. Should be nice and floppy like that, right? Without any play. This side, not doing that. She's tight, so that's going to give you binding in your four-wheel drive. This U-joint is junk, so we're going to have to go and replace the U-joint here. Might as well get them to get one for the other side because we're going to have it out too. The fun continues. I got this side all apart. I got this axle out, and wouldn't you know it, same thing. This U-joint is kind of crunchy, so we're going to have to change that one too. I got the wheel bearing out. This side was quite a bit more rusty than the other side. It was a little harder getting it out, but as you can see, we're already draining some fluid out of there after I pulled that axle out. So now we gotta get this diff cover out of here. First things first, I always like to, before I even pull it apart, clean out the little 3/8 drive for the plug here. Get a ratchet up in there. Crack him loose. Not gonna take it right out, just crack it loose. And then we gotta hit all these bolts with a 13 mil. Got a drain pan down here on the floor, and same thing, we're just gonna take this 13 mil and crack them all loose by hand first, just to make sure we don't run into any issues rounding off any heads of the bolts or anything. Perfect. And we'll switch over to our DeWalt cordless. Start peeling them out. Now I do believe this one has a reusable rubber and plastic gasket. So as we get undoing all these bottom bolts, it should start draining. There she goes. It's nice clean fluid up in here. And just undo them all except for the very top one. And just let her drain. Slow down to a bit of a drip. So I'll take that last one out. And peel this guy off with the gasket. See, that's the beauty right there, the reusable gasket. Look at all this goodness up in here. So we had to undo those axles because they slide into this carrier here, and the seals are up on this side, on the inside here. So we got to pop this carrier unit out so we can get access to those seals. Before I take anything apart, I'm just going to I got a little center punch kind of chisel thing here. I am just going to, oh, that's right in the freaking way. Nice one. Give her a little tap there. Tap there. And then same thing on this side. I'm going to do 2 on here just in case, but. Okay, so we got those adjusters marked. I don't plan on touching this one. I want to leave this one alone so we don't end up messing with the backlash of the gear set and everything. You want to keep that all the way it is. So I'm going to undo these guys. These are just pins that are locking these adjusters from spinning. So we'll take those out and we'll undo the caps, pull the caps off. I'll have to back this side off just so we can get this carrier out, and then we'll get that seal out of there. So these guys are just 13 mils. Pop them off. Like I said, these things are just there to bolt in, and these 2 pins just slot into those holes there to stop those adjusters from turning. And then we got our breaker bar with an 18 mil. Crack these guys loose. They're not crazy tight. Have to double check the torque spec when we go to put her back together. And now that I got them all loose, I just got a smaller punch there. I'm just going to back this guy off. We'll go 1 turn till those holes line back up. Just like so. There's our 2 punch marks lined up with those 2 punch marks. That just takes the preload and the tension off the carrier, so then we can undo these caps and roll that whole thing out. Now, I am here by myself, and these things are not light. It's a little bit of an awkward position I'm in here because I'm trying to film and everything too at the same time. We want to keep everything side for side too, so I'm just laying these on the bench. I'm going to keep everything on the left side to the left and everything on the right side to the right. Oh, oh, see, just, oh, she's starting to go, boys. All right. Come on, you dirty dog. There goes the cap. Just like so. Now that carrier is out of the way, we're going to remove this adjuster ring. Like I said, we're not touching this one at all. So when we put it all back together, we can just readjust this one, put the preload on it, and we're not messing with our backlash with the pinion or anything like that. So I've already backed this one off 1 turn. So now we're going to screw it out, bring it out this way, and we'll just count how many times this goes around, right? So there's 1, we're back to where it was. 2, 3, 4, Okay, so it looks like 8 and a little bit. So I got the 8 and then spun it around there and she came off. So we'll try, and when we go put it back in, we'll start it up here, get it threaded, and thread it in 8 times. Good thing I'm recording this, otherwise I'd forget. With that out of the way, you can see there's the seal there. Now, to pull it out, you don't want to go in there with a traditional seal puller or a pry bar and going in, because you'll end up prying on the casing here, and this is where all those fine threads are for that adjuster. You don't want to bugger that up. So we'll just go in through the end with a bar, come in on the end and just punch it out into this side here. Okay, I got a pry bar jammed through the tube here. Let's get knocking on heaven's door. Wow. Is it coming? Oh, that did it. Where'd that sucker go? Now is a good time to scrape out all the crap out of this axle tube too. And just like that, there be the seal. Now it's got this is a plastic cone on this end here. That's so when it's sitting in there like that, when you go to slide your axle in, it can go doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, waller around the hole and find it right in the middle. And the one problem about this setup here is the seal's all the way over there, but then you've got this length of tube that comes out that's open to the elements. So like anytime you're pulling the axle and all that, like that there, I don't know if you can see that. That's like a sewage tube up in there. So, you know, if you're doing your U-joints and whatnot and you drag the axle out and then you go to jam it back in, you're pushing on any and all that crap into the seal, into the diff. So, I mean, now's the kind of the time. Try and get in there. I'll try and scrape as much as that gunk out of there as I can, so it can be half-ass clean by the time we go to put it back together. Like even if I just take my pry bar and scrape some of this stuff out, look at that. That is what is up in that tube. You definitely don't want that going into your seal or your differential. Okay, dokie artichoke. So we got everything out on the bench. That is the original seal there that was pressed in there. We popped her out. Now that is the plastic cone part of it. Now, like I said, the only reason they do that, that's like a guide. So when you're sliding the axle in, it hits that and goes up into the center. So we got a replacement. They actually supplied me with the replacement, and wouldn't you know it? Oh, that's our friends right there, Timken. Belts by Timken. That's what we use with the Ultimax. So, hey, this front diff is going to be sealing to the max. Now we got to put the new seal in. I've got the tube all cleaned out and this all cleaned up as good as we can get her for now. Anyway, so what we're going to do is there is a special tool you can buy to press these in. Like this seal here is going to be going right in like so. And then we got to pop it in there and get her flush with the housing. Now there is like it's an expanding tool. It butts up against this side and then you get a jam nut and you kind of crank it and it pushes that forward. I don't have one. I tried to get one off of Mr. Bezos there, but wouldn't you know it, ordered one up and it was the wrong one. Does not work for this application. So I am going to try, I just have a typical bearing and seal installer kit. You know, it's all aluminum, different discs or whatever, different size. So this will fit right up in there. So hopefully, with any luck, I got a little duker of a hammer here. We're just gonna try and center that guy up and give her some tippy taps. So far, so good. Let me move the camera here. A little hard for me to get a decent little swing on there with the camera where it was, so we'll try it this way. She's a bit of an awkward spot, but she's going. Ooh, I think we are just about there. Yes, sir. I think we're flush all the way around. Nice one. Pull you out of there. So she's hammered in. She's flush all the way around. So now we are good to give this a final clean and wipe out, and we'll set the carrier back in. We got to spin our adjuster ring back in, and it was rewatched my footage 8 times. We got to go in to line up the dots, and then that'll be screwed in 8 times, and then back her out 1 turn. We're going to lube her up with a little bit of, what do we got here? Klondike 8090 from Iron Equipment. They're a dealer for this stuff. This is, you know, good stuff. It's Canadian. Can't go wrong with Canadian stuff. So we'll lube her all up, and we'll get these guys. I think it was like a 1/4 turn or so it started out here. So we'll get that back in. Yeah, we're locked in, lined up. So we'll start going in. 1. I know, we already done this. Well, we're back around, lined up, 8 times screwed in. So now we should be able to pop the carrier back in. We'll hit them with a little bit of the Klondike lube on the bearings and the caps and all that, and then we'll get her in. Just put the caps on, finger tight, get everything snugged up and right, and then we'll clamp her down. Okay, let's see if I was eating my Wheaties today. Okay. So that's sitting there. And what are the odds that's going to stay there while I grab a cap? We definitely don't want this to land on the floor, you know what I'm saying? So we are going to just finger tighten, get them started anyway. Okay, so these are all finger tight. Everything is situated, so we should be able to roll this guy in, and we'll set the preload back in 1 turn. As I'm doing it, I'm just kind of spinning the pinion there just to make sure everything is happy and right. So there we go. We are all lined back up. These dots they never moved. We're set back to here. Everything should be good. We can lock her all down. We'll just throw these guys in just for now, just to make sure nothing moves while we're torquing and whatnot. And it kind of helps us make sure we've got everything in the right spot, because if this doesn't line up or lock in, well, then that's not where the adjuster was. Those 2 pins have to go in those holes there. So now we gotta look up the torque spec and crank these guys down, and then crank those down. Well, according to Google, it could be anywhere from 65 to 85. So let's go 75 here and just see. Not bad, not bad. First pass. I mean, they weren't crazy tight to undo. That's for sure. Give her 1 more shot. And then these guys are just 18, I believe. Make sure everything still spins nice. Oh, roundy, round you go. Backlash is still good. We didn't bugger any of that up. Bearing preload should be good. And then we are basically done up in here. We can throw this cover back on. It's got that reusable gasket, so we'll just zip her on. And then, unfortunately, we have to replace those U-joints on the axles before we go sliding them back in. There's no point putting her back together with those U-joints the way they were. 4x4 would not be happy for a while, so just hit her with a back and forth pattern here. Crisscross applesauce kind of deal. And then once around the world, I'll pull this guy out of there so she's ready to fill up. But we can't fill it until we get the new U-joints in those axles and then slip them back in, because this thing's already leaning this way. soon as I tried to start filling it, it would just run out that axle tube. So we'll do the U-joint in that one first. Slam that sucker back in. Oh, one step closer to being done for the day and into the beer fridge. So while we're playing the waiting game, I mean, usually sucks when this happens. You know, this was really only in here just to get that axle seal done. But, you know, if any of you know that have done this for a while, as soon as you get digging into a job, you know, you find one issue after another. And I mean, we're here right now. There's no point in not doing these right now. So all I do is I got my big vise mounted on the side of the bench here. I just take a pair of vice grips, clamp them on the edge like so, just to support the end of the axle. Open up the vise. And that way, this is my working area right here. We got to clean out all the gunk in here. There are some internal clips that lock the cups for the U-joints in there. We got to hammer them out. I know. Put the safety squints on. Half the time I got my safety glasses on top of my head instead of on my eyeballs. There we go. Gotta knock them clips out of there. Those are the little half moon clips that lock the cups in. There's 4 of them. You gotta get them out of each one. And sometimes they are just a bugger. Oh, there's 2. 3. Freaking safety squints are fogging up. And 1 more right here. Just like so. Now we got all the clips out. There is a grease fitting in here. We should see if that'll spin out of there, I guess. I don't know if these are 7 mil, 1/4 inch, or 5/16, but today she's gonna be a vice grip. Oh yeah. Universal. Just by taking the grease nipple out of there, or Zerk fitting, I guess it's called. Then when you hammer these things out, it doesn't bottom out on that. You can get that extra little bit of leverage on her. So now, we got to pop this sucker out of here. So we got to get the U-joint out. Now, there's all kinds of fancy tools. You could use a ball joint press, press the cups back and forth or whatnot. There's air hammer cups or whatever for the air gun. You can use to press it out. I've got my vise. I've got it opened up just enough to support the yoke here. Take my favorite. This is my favorite Martello right here. I've had this one for a long time and never lets me down. Basically, just hold and support the axle shaft there. We're going to give her a couple of good wraps right there. Just going to pop right out. Just like that. Flip her around the other way. It's like shampoo on your hair. Rinse, lather, and repeat. Like so. There we go. One axle end off. Now for this one here, all we do, I just close up the jaws of the vise just to catch the ends for the U-joint there. Hold it up to support it. Pop her out. And look at how rusty and crusty that is. That U-joint is not U-jointing. And that, my friends, is that. There we go. Just like so. These ones were still kind of lubed up and pivoting good. These 2, not so much. And you can tell, like, if you're turning and you're driving 4-wheel drive, or even in 2-wheel drive sometimes, you have the wheel turned slightly and you feel it kind of kick back at you. That's these guys binding up. So now we just got to clean up the inside face of these guys. I got this Milwaukee little belt sander. I have an air version of this, but Claude came in with these on the truck. I was like, whoa, that belongs in my toolbox right there. So I like to get rid of all the rust and crap off the inside of these ears. Works perfect. Just like so, just to get rid of any of the rust or any debris in there, because a lot of the times some of the aftermarket U-joints you get, the clips, the thickness is different or whatever, and you can struggle to get these clips in, and then it binds up the joint too tight. So if you clean up this stuff, just makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so they just dropped off some AAM U-joints. These ones here seem to be quite a bit better than the SKF and all the other ones we've been getting. They fit a lot better and they seem to last longer. So we're doing a bit of a unboxing here. So I guess these must be able to be used whether inside clip or outside clips, but you get both. We are not going to need these. They're going to go right in the junk drawer. But these ones, like, it's a good looking joint, you know. It's got these, instead of rubber caps, it's got these stamped caps. So heavy duty, and you know what? Some of them come with grease fittings, but you know, I kind of more of a fan of these sealed ones. They can't get any crap inside to contaminate the needle bearings in there, so they seem to last longer. So let's put this fella in. All right, so we're gonna throw this together, and same thing. They do have special tools and stuff like that for doing this, but you don't need it. All you need is, I swear by, a good bench vise. This one's 8-inch jaws, works out perfect. You can do a lot of things with a good vise. So I'm just gonna take a couple of these caps off. We don't want them falling onto the floor. Loop that U-joint in there, slide her in, and then all we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna support the joint and tap that cap in. Just far enough till we can get one of these clips in, snap it in, flip it over. Do the same thing on the other side. Get the cap started in there. Snap the clip in. Tickety-boo. Flip her around. Do the same thing with the knuckle end. Loop it in and around. Just like so. That's moving nice there. That's moving nice there. Now the joint should move nice and smooth every direction. If it's a little tight one way, just let her dangle a little bit, give her a tap. And then look at that, nice and smooth that way, nice and smooth that way. Ready to go in. And now that that is all done, that U-joint is nice and smooth. She's all wiped down clean. I got the tube all cleaned out. Seals are all in, everything's good to go. We'll slide the axles back in. I'll do the same thing on the other one, change the U-joint in it. Same thing, I don't have to show you, I just did. So we'll do that, and then we'll just throw her all back together. Okay, before we go jamming our nice clean shaft in this dirty hole here, we got to clean up all the rust out of there. These carbide bits in the die grinder make short work of the rust and everything in here. Open it up so that wheel bearing will slide right in there when we put her all back together. We're not really looking to take any real material off, just the rusty bits. And then hit her with the right angle die grinder with a 2-inch cookie. Beautiful. Now we gotta slip the shaft in there. I got a little bit of the fresh Klondike on the seal surface and all the splines there. And all we gotta do is slide her in. I like to support the shaft so it doesn't drag and scrape along the bottom of the tube there. We just gotta send her home. Just like so. And before we slide the wheel bearing in, I'm just gonna pop some grease in here. Get this all lubed up in here. That way, if we ever got, you know, we're not changing the wheel bearings now. I mean, these wheel bearings are pretty bulletproof. I mean, they last quite a while. They're not like your typical GM wheel bearings where you're changing them once a month, but this way, if we gotta take it up all apart, you won't need any special tools to do it. Just unbolt it, she should pull right apart. Take all the wheel bearing bolts, poke them all through first. Right now, line this sucker up. Get it all lined up, and then get all these bolts started. Once you get them lined up, it's not too bad. There we go, got that one a couple of threads. I think we got that one a couple of threads. Where we got there? See if we can run them in with the gun here. Oh, yes, sir. Let's go kitty corner. Yes, sir. Nice one. Beauty. I'm just gotta torque them down. I think the spec online was 149. Beauty. Okay, those bolts there, 149. This sucker here, according to the Googles, 263 foot-pounds. So, I mean, we'll see her with some ugga-duggas. And then, yeah, we'll have to, I don't even know if my torque wrench goes that high. So, got my torque wrench dialed to the max on this one. Oh, here we go. Oh, Jesus. And wouldn't you know it, the new cotter pin slides right in. Oh, nice one. Beauty. Got my little tranny jack just underneath this side just to level out the diff because it was hanging low on the passenger side. And then we're just gonna squirt some of this Klondike oil in here. Should hold about approximately 3 of these bottles. All right, we got 2 in there. This is gonna be number 3. Oh, there we go. Perfect. It's running out of there. She's good to go. Lock that down. Nice and snug. Perfecto. And that right there completes the seal installation. Nice one. Now just gotta reroute the speed sensor back up through here. Plug it in. Just like so. That's all we're gonna do there for now, I think. All right, so as far as doing the axle seals, if you're into this kind of job, that is exactly what you got to do. You got to strip the whole thing down, and now we're back to the beginning here. We got her all back together, but looking in on these calipers, I mean, they are rusty and crusty and falling apart. So I was talking with Kyle there from Iron Equipment, gonna send me out all new brakes and everything for that, but that's gonna be for tomorrow. Today's job was tearing this apart and doing the axle seals, and we have accomplished that. So it's 5 o'clock. It's beer time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, it's a little how-to on doing the inner axle seals on the front axle of your Dodge Ram 2500, 3500. They're all the same. There is a different style out there if it's got the splitter thing for the 4-wheel drive on there, but most of them are like this one here. And if you got a buddy and he says, hey, I need a hand doing my inner axle seal, think twice about saying yes, because he's a bit of a gig to get done. So appreciate everybody subscribing to the channel, you know, supporting us, going to the site, www.rednecks-dirtyhands.com. You know, supporting us, buying the merch, all that jazz. And, you know, we're having fun doing this and trying to get as many videos out as we can. But as always, we appreciate your support, and cheers.